Today I will be guiding you through our Labyrinth Deception Platform, but from a more technical point of view. To begin with, let's recall some info about system components and how they interact with each other. So, admin virtual machine or management console performs as a core module that renders the web interface, web UI, which is used by operators. Also, it works with alerts and provides multi-tenancy or environmental isolation. In other words, that there may be a few different tenants within a single installation. You can split the license between them. This way, you will avoid spending all at once. And through encrypted channels, admin virtual machine communicates with workers, which are also virtual machines, but ones that are supposed to run deceptive network services, or how we call them, points. There may be more than one worker. Each can serve both one and several VLANs simultaneously, depending on your needs. So another crucial part is HoneyNet. HoneyNet is a network segment with specific parameters in which our baits or points operate, and point itself is a network bait for the attacker, simulating a variety of IT services, but what's important is the possibility of their exploitation. This makes them more attractive for an attacker. On the screen, you can see some of the types, some of the generated points example. We will also explore all of the available types a little later. And for today, I would also like to talk more about Cedars. Cedar agent is an agent type software that is generated on admin virtual machine. It is designed to be distributed and run on real hosts in order to spread logical links to the simulated IT infrastructure within the real one. The logical connection in this case between real and deceptive infrastructure will be maintained using Cedar tasks, which may be also referred to as a file or logical bait in Labyrinth. So for now, let's examine the main workflows. As you can see, we'll start from creating a tenant, customizing it, and finish with testing the whole system. Let's move to our web UI. As I said before, Labyrinth provides multi-tenancy or environmental isolation. So first of all, let's create a separate tenant. Let's move to multi-tenancy. We can see that I do have license for one more tenant. Click on Add. Right here, user have to specify a name. Let's do something meaningful. Also, a user has to specify the quantity of HoneyNets in points. Once again, in order to split the license in parts according to the needs. So I think 2 HoneyNets will be enough, and let it be 30 points. Click on Add. Everything is successful. We can see our newly created tenant. Actually, we can see all of our tenants. Each of them can be changed according to changing needs by clicking on this tiny edit button. We can see the same exact form. Also, you can delete your tenants, but what's important, there shouldn't be any HoneyNets. So let's move to our newly created tenant. For now, we are moving to the second step, which is adding custom word list. We will need them in order to create a HANAnet. They will provide additional parameters when generating points, network decoys, and Cedar tasks, file decoys. So let's go to the settings, word lists. Right here we can see a form to add those word lists. Let's generate a custom one. Let's move to desktop. I really hope that I do have my comment. Yeah, I do have my comment ready, so we won't spend time typing it. Long thing short, it will generate a bunch of passwords with random symbols, random letters and random numbers. Let's see what we have inside. As I said before, there are, I believe, yeah, there are 10 characters in each of the passwords. It works fine for our case. We'll use this word list. And let's move back to the form. First of all, we need an ID. Let's type in something. Next, we should choose which word list to use. Of course, there should be a description. Let's provide something. And last but not least option is word list type. As you can see, there are 3 available types, one for host names, one for passwords, one for usernames. Actually, their name types speak for themselves or for their purpose. So my word list will be used for passwords. Click on upload. We can see that it was uploaded successfully. And we can see it in a list of word lists. I highly recommend uploading your custom word list because let's see what we, for example, have inside in host names, and you can see it looks kind of suspicious for an attacker. So just provide some names according to your company policy. Also, we can see which word list is in use by checking the tick. And of course, we can delete word lists that we don't need anymore. Having prepared our word list, let's move to the third step in our plan, which is creating a HANAnet. We go to HANAnet, click on plus sign, and from here we can see a bunch of options that we have to fill in, have to provide. And the first option in the HANAnet settings is type, which indicates how points will be created and receive IP addresses in this network. There are currently 3 types of HANAnets. Static, the first one, the default one. The IP addresses for points are assigned statically from the allowed IP addresses list. Next one is DHCP. Points in this HANAnets receive dynamic IP addresses from a DHCP server in a network. And last but not least, Azure Virtual Network. It's for creating points in Azure Cloud. I will go for static one. And let's examine what do we have in REST. First field is ID or unique name. This is for distinguishable name of the HANAnets. Let's have something. Next field needs a value which defines which worker virtual machine is in use. You can check all of the available locations by heading to the nodes menu sub-item. And right here we can see that I have only demo and it's ready, therefore let's use it. Let's provide name, location is demo. Next is subnet. And default gateway. So next field, Cedar proxy IP address. It is about one of the addresses from the subnet, which is needed for proper Cedar agents work in cases where it's not possible to provide direct connection to direct network connection, I mean, to admin virtual machine or management console. Therefore, let's provide it. Also, I need VLAN ID, some description, and because I'm about to create a static HANet, I need to provide some IP addresses, some range. It's mostly needed to avoid collisions in your network when everything is manually specified. But it's up to you which type most used to you. You can provide a range as well as a single IP address. So next field is for specifying addresses of available web interfaces in the network. It may be used to specify, for example, interfaces on some specific or unusual ports. Just fill in URL, IP address, with the port, etc. So I have my ABM curator. Therefore, let's fill it in. And next field is for configuring RDP. So let's move to word list. And for passwords, I will be using the custom word list, and for all of the others, let's have the default ones. Next option is HANet scanning. It is important for the logic and speed of generation of network decoys points. Before each generation, the scanning of Labyrinth networks, that is, the networks that are registered in the configurations of all HANets is started. This is like an alternative way to Universal Web Clone IP field. It is an alternative way to provide Labyrinth some data about which web interfaces should be emulated in your network. But you should keep in mind that scanning will take a little longer, but it's still an option. And next option is autopilot, which works only with static HANets. It will use all of the addresses from allowed IP addresses list and assign points to them. I will do all of the things manually. So I would need some SSH daemon, of course, universal point, and let's have some Windows 10 hosts. But as you can see, there are tons of various point types, and it's really easy to create 1, 10, 100, and 1,000 of points. Everything depends on your license. So I think that would be enough. Let's add some NetBIOS clients, and I think we're good to go. Click on create. It was created successfully. We can see our HANet. There are basically two ways to start the HoneyNet. The first one is to start each one individually by clicking on three dots, generate, confirm, and the generation has started. Second one is by moving to the map section. It is completely normal that we don't see anything yet because our points are being generated. So from the actions hidden menu, we can see two buttons, generate and terminate. This way you start or stop all of the HoneyNets at once. May be really convenient when you have a bunch of HoneyNets. So this way you won't generate all of the HoneyNets one by one. Would take less time. And from here, we can click on details and change some of the settings, which include Cedar proxy, IP address, allowed IP addresses, or for example, if you want to change parameters of points, the quantity, the type, it's also possible to do in this menu, in this form, but everything will be changed from the next HoneyNet generation. Also, you can delete your HoneyNet, but only when it's terminated. Also, from this menu, you can filter your HoneyNets depending on the fields you need. For example, status, location, subnet, etc. Also, you can refresh the table to see what's going on with your HoneyNets, and of course download a list of HoneyNets in CSV formats. For example, if you have to provide a report or do some analytics, really convenient. By the way, more info about point types available here, point types actually. From here we can see a description. Sometimes it is a full name, also version, short name, and we can see that our points are being generating in real time by clicking on points list. There are three available point states. First one is pending, which indicates that point is being generated. Also, we have running, which means that point is ready to use. And you can also pause your point, and this way you will see one more state, which is paused. Let's also examine the buttons. Right here, you can as well filter according to the fields you need, and also refresh. We can see that the view has changed. Some of the points are still generating. This way, Labyrinth's status is in progress. Let's try to filter. Okay. So we are almost done. Yeah, we are done. And of course, we can also download everything in CSV reports. Let's see how it looks. Right here is all of the necessary info, its location, host name, IP address, type, etc. Once again, for a report or analytics. By clicking on three dots, we can also see some details about the point. For example, right here we can see ID, location, host name, and some specific variables. For example, there's info about users for SSH, for universal web point, we can see what resources, what web resources are being emulated, which address, which port. So to continue, we'll move to the fourth step, which is adding some Cedar agents and generating some tasks. As I said before, main purpose of Cedar agent is create logical links to integrate Labyrinth into existing infrastructure. Firstly, we move to Cedar agents, download, and we have to generate a binary file. Click on press to prepare. We have to wait for a couple of seconds for it in order to generate a binary. It is important to generate it for each of the tenants in order to keep them up to date. So let's see, we have something for Windows ready. There are files for Windows and for Linux as well. I will go for Linux binary. It is downloaded. So secondly, we have to somehow distribute this file all over the host. Let's move back to terminal. Use the downloads folder. Let's see whether we have this file. Yes. For this purpose, I will use SCP as I have only one test example, but in production it can be whatever you want, from Ansible to, for example, simple self-made scripts. So let's try. Let's type in SCP local file and username and address of a real host machine. Let's try. Great. Let's see whether we have it right here. Yes, we do. First of all, let's allow it to execute. No, it should be run, but first of all, let's see all of the possible options. We type in help. You can see that we can specify host, location, etc. I will go for specifying a host, which is IP address of a Cedar proxy. It's also important which user is running the file. For example, if we are talking about a local user, Cedar agent will generate tasks only for this specific user, but if you use Cedar, it will spread the task all over the machine, all over the system. Therefore, let's use Cedar. Host, and I need an IP address of a Cedar proxy. Let's check its state. IP address. It's running. We can use it. So let's move back. I need a password. We can see that it was registered successfully. And right after that, we should be able to see it in Cedar agents list. Unfortunately, yeah, we do, with all of the necessary info. And right here we have same bunch of options like filter, refresh the page, download a CSV report. And from here you can also delete your host. And let's check whether we have some tasks. Yes, we do have a lot of them. They vary from, let's see, types. from RTP. Also, we have something for SSH, for PuTTY. Actually, a variety of types depends on the types of points you are using. So let's see what we have inside. For example, for SSH, we can click on details and we can see some credentials. Also, we can see whether this file is really there. Let's have my local user. Let's see, yeah, and we can see the same exact info as we see in Labyrinth, which is great. So next step in our agenda is adding some integrations. Labyrinth provides integrations with a variety of different systems. For example, it's Microsoft Teams certifications, it's even syslog forwarder, but what's more, for ABM Curator and Splunk, we have two-site integration, which means that new alerts will be generated according to the data the system have. You may ask how. By detecting the usage of data from the word list that we have specified earlier. So regarding the integrations, I will use Slack and ABM Curator for our case. Let's move to settings, integrations. Let's start from Slack. And for it, we only need a webhook URL. So let's move to the Slack. Click on Settings, Administration, Manage Apps. In Slack app directory, we should look for incoming webhooks. Choose Add to Slack. Also, we have to choose Create new channel or choose the existing one. Click on Add incoming webhook integration, and we are good to use a URL. Let's fill in, click on test. It is successful. Let's see whether we have something in Slack. Yeah, we do. We have a test message. So let's enable it and save. Another case that we are about to explore is ABM Curator. As I said before, we have a two-site integration. First of all, I need my credentials. Login. Great. And let's also check what info do we need to perform this integration. First one is API host and second one is API token. Let's from start use an API host. And for API token, we go to the admin, authorized services. Click add authorized service and fill in all of the data. But because deployment may take some time, we will use a prepared key. Let's see, for example, this one. Let's click on test. It is also successful. Therefore, we can enable it. We can save. So we have our integrations ready. And let's move to to generating some alerts, having all said and done. And first one, I would say, is a classic one. It is a network scan. For this, we need one of the points. So let's use nmap without any flags, just the bare nmap. We'll have to wait for a couple of seconds, and right here we can see data about our ports. One of them is filtered. Let's move back. Sometimes it takes up to a few seconds to get an alert. Let's see. And we have our alert ready. Great. So let's move to the next case, which is web scan. For it, I need a universal web point. Fortunately, we have one. By the way, let's see what we have. And it looks completely the same as my original ABM queue regular does. So to perform web scan, I will be using TIRP. TIRP. We see that it is scanning, something is testing, so let it do its work while we will be looking for alerts. It is still scanning. By the way, there are two ways to see actual alerts. It's from alerts menu sub-item and also by clicking on the latest alerts. And from here, we can see that web scanner has been detected. Let's stop this. And while we are here, let's also try to change alert state. Let's move it to closed. Of course, we have to specify a comment. For example, it may be the reason. It's me. Or, for example, results of your investigation. Click confirm. And you can see that the state was changed and everything is written in the audit log. We can see when did it happen, what exactly happened, what's the event type, on which alert, etc. and etc. So let's continue. And by the way, we can see our alerts in Slack. For now, there are only two of them. Let's generate more. So next case is phishing on workstations using breadcrumbs. Let's move to the Cedar agents tasks. I will be using something for SSH. Let's see. Let's use some credentials. We need, in my case, because of the configuration of my machine, I have to provide an additional parameter. So let's try host key algorithm and it wants from me SSH let it be RSA. Yes, I would like to continue. I need a password. Fortunately, I have one. Let's type. And we're in. Let's, for example, do this case even more interesting and try to type in some comments, something basic, like who am I, and even something that does not exist. And we're good. Let's see whether we have alerts. Yes, we see that connection was detected, and we can see all of the comments that I used. We can see that login was successful. Therefore, my attack, on the other hand, was unsuccessful. It's a bad day for me as an attacker. Next case we are going to explore is universal waypoint LFI exploitation. Let's see. For this, I need I need my universal waypoints. Yes, this one. And let's, for example, try to get the content of let it be etc passwords file name. One more. etc passwords. And we can see all of the data. Let's see whether we have an alert. As I said before, sometimes it takes up to a few seconds. And we can see that we have an alert about attempt to exploit local file inclusion. By clicking, we can switch to that alert. And by the way, let's also check what do we have on our map. In order to simplify the view, on the map, you can see only those points that are being involved in some alerts. So you can click, see how many attacks were performed, number of attackers' IPs, what exactly happened, etc., and also see connections to the Cedars. Last but not least, we'll be using two-side integration. Let's try. So for this case, I need some credentials, and I will be trying to use them to log in into my real host. I will go to Cedar Agents, Tasks, as once again, I will be using SSH, txt credentials, something from here. Let's switch. Type in SSH, hostname, and an IP address of my real host machine that is connected to ABM Curator. It sends all of the logs. I need a password. Let's try this one. Does it work? No. Let's try something different. It's faulty once again. Let's try the other one. Unfortunately, I cannot access my machine using these faulty credentials. And let's see what a security analyst can see from all of this situation. We go to the log activity. Let's provide a quick filter, view for last 15 minutes. Have to wait for a couple of seconds. And we can see that SSH login was failed. We can see what username an attacker or me was trying to use. Let's see how it looks in row view. Once again, we need a couple of seconds. You can see what happened. User failed to log in SSH. And we can see what user exactly tried to do this. So let's move back to our labyrinths. We'll go to the alerts. This type of alerts will come, we will have to wait up to 5 minutes until it is generated. So let's see. So you can see our alert from ABM curator. User failed to log into SSH. You can see the username, the source, which is curator, and my attack once again was completely unsuccessful. It was a disaster. And that's all. Let's see whether we have something here. Yeah, we do have all of the alerts. And that's all from me for now. Thanks for your attention and have a nice day.